Today we're going to learn about a special move called Enpassant, which is a French term that means in passing. And it is a fancy pawn move, and I'm going to explain how it works. So in this position in front of you, we have a white pawn on the 5th rank. And anytime white does an en move, their pawn is on the 5th rank. We'll learn about black in a moment. But here's what it looks like. Instead of moving one square where we could just take the pawn, black decides to move 2 squares to try to avoid this capture. But in chess, you cannot avoid that capture. And that I can play en passant and capture your pawn. And now that looks weird. It's the only capture in chess where you move to a square where there is not a piece and you take a piece off the board from a different square, like this. Now, it only works on the move after they move side by side, or if they're trying to pass your pawn. That's why it's called in passing. So when they are passing your pawn, you can capture. Now, if you don't do the capture and then they make a move as well, you'll notice I can't capture the pawn anymore. It only works the moment they move side by side your pawn, you can try to take it, and that's it. So let's look at en passants for both sides. So you'll see I have these 2 long arrows here. So this arrow, the blue arrow, indicates that if black moves to the 5th rank next to their pawn, en passant is possible. And then we can look at this green arrow here, which does the same thing, but for black. So here we go. Let's look at how some of these moves work. So black moves to b5, and white en passants like this, taking the pawn, as you can see. And then we'll do one for black. So white moves their pawn forward 2 squares, which is on the 4th rank, which is side by side the black pawn, and black can also en passant and capture. And then, of course, both pawns get to go become queens. So that's how en passant works. It's a fancy pawn move, but it's very useful to know. You don't always have to en passant just because you can. A lot of times playing en passant is not a good move, but it is fun. So if you encounter it in your game and you play that move, you know how you now are able to play the move. And I assure you, if your opponent ever does this to you, they are not cheating. A lot of people think en passant is cheating because you're making a kind of a funny looking pawn move, and then you get to remove the pawn from the square that it didn't move to. So just understand that this is not cheating. It is part of chess. It's a real rule, and it's called en passant.